I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Certainly in the UK now, we're at a crossroads. We have got a right-wing proposition that we've not had in this country before. We've gone on for decades with elections which are basically either a Labour government or a Conservative government, pitched usually pretty much on the centrepiece of politics, the centre ground of politics. So, but now we face a very different proposition with Reform and Nigel Farage. It's that march that we had here 2 weeks ago in London, in Whitehall, that sent shivers through the spines of many of our communities well away from London, not just those in the immediate vicinity. So there's a battle for the soul of this country now as to what sort of country do we want to be, because that toxic divide, that decline with Reform, it's built on a sense of grievance politics, identifying something real for sure, but relying on the problem existing in order for their politics to persist.
So I guess they're starting off in the UK first. They're literally saying you will not be able to work without a digital ID. Now, I have been warning about this right here on TikTok twice already. I tried to expose how they're slowly rolling this out. And both times, my videos got hit with community guideline violations under so-called misinformation. Funny how that shit works, huh? This is the exact plan that they have been pushing you guys step by step. First it's for work checks, then it's for housing, then it's for healthcare, then it's for travel, until every single part of your life is tied to a government-issued digital ID. And once that switch flips, they will be able to control who gets to participate in society and who doesn't. Let's be real here, folks. This is about power. It's about surveillance. It's about building a system where they decide who gets basic access to life necessities. So my question is, how long before something like this shows up right here in America? And why is talking about it labeled misinformation if it's literally happening in the UK right now?
Well, you guys, they did it. They successfully created a gigantic problem, and now they're giving you a free solution to it. After the UK has relaxed its immigration laws and allowed so many people to flood into their country, now Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister, has announced that all UK citizens will be required to have a digital ID to have the right to work in the UK.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work.
Everyone who wants to work in the United Kingdom or have any kind of social services will be required to have a digital ID proving who they are attached to their face. And this in no way, shape, or form means that it's going to increase or escalate into a surveillance state where your identity is tracked wherever you go and your financial services could be cut off for any reason. That's not what this is, you guys. This is just a free digital ID guaranteeing that you are a citizen of the United Kingdom and that you have the right to work. So I wonder what the thousands of migrants that don't have any documentation, I wonder what they're going to do now. Seems like they could have avoided this in the beginning by not allowing people to flood into the country and proper immigration practices from the beginning, instead of having to fix a problem way after you've already let it go on for so long.
Okay, Keir Starmer's proposed BritCard digital ID scheme, set for mandatory rollout by the end of the current Parliament, aims to verify rights to work and reside in the UK, promising to curb illegal migration by closing loopholes exploited by traffickers and employers while enhancing border security and streamlining public services with fairness and convenience. This is what proponents like the Tony Blair Institute are saying. However, critics warn of a dystopian nightmare, citing mass surveillance risks, potential data breaches, and digital exclusion for the elderly, homeless, or those without smartphones, arguing it may drive unauthorized migrants underground without addressing root immigration issues. What do you guys think? Comment below.
Every single adult in the UK must get a digital ID. There have been some suggestions that the scheme won't be mandatory in the literal sense, but that one will be required to access the internet. housing, employment, banking, transportation, or any other essential service. In other words, mandatory. Though the final details aren't yet officially public, it seems clear that digital IDs would rely upon mobile devices, apps, and would be linked to a citizen's phone number, bank account, medical file, and employment and housing history. The startling move is being billed as a means to combat illegal immigration. But skeptics and human rights groups point out that if the British government was really committed to resolving that issue, it could do so easily without digital IDs. Critics of the plan also note that no electronic service is truly safe, and the consolidation of so much information into one space creates major security risks. Still, others note that these types of mechanisms have already been employed in other countries as a means of maintaining control over their populations in a distinctly undemocratic manner.
So they want us to get digital fucking ID. Old Rodney has been up to his old tricks, hasn't he? Like, why are people still listening to this bullshit? Why are people still following this bullshit? If you are someone that's invested in digital ID and cannot see for a single second that they create the problem to then give the solution to take away all of your basic human rights, you're delusional. You're completely delusional. You are going to lose everything. Everything is going to be seen. We will have no freedom to speak, no freedom to do anything, because it's being taken away from us by a bunch of people who are egotistically on a power trip. This is what this is, and I am sick of it, and I do not conform to this in any capacity whatsoever.
If you're against the digital ID because you think it's going to be used by governments in very bad ways, well, I would like to introduce you to your new best friend, the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 8, which gives you protection and the right to a private family and a private life, meaning that the government can only actually use the law, if you're in the European Convention of Human Rights, in very strict ways to actually do what you think they might want to do. So if the government wanted to introduce a bill tomorrow that said, we're going to use the digital ID to track people, to see where they are, to track their locations, to see what they're doing, to check their phones, to do whatever you think they might be doing in bad ways. They can't. They cannot do this under the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 8. The only time that they can do this is if it's in strict circumstances and in terms of like national security. That's why we have laws that allow the police to search people's phones and search people's devices, or possibly track them, or even tap into their devices. When it comes to policing as well, when it comes to criminal matters, they can, you know, do technological things to basically invade your private life and your family life. But other than that, they can't do it. If the government wanted to pass a bill tomorrow, they wouldn't be able to. If a future government wanted to pass a bill, they wouldn't be able to do it under the ECHR, because people have been led to believe that the ECHR is to do with things like immigration and all of these types of things. But the point of the ECHR and the reason it was created was because they wanted to create a set of laws into a country which would prevent a government coming into power who wanted to expand its powers over people, an authoritarian government, possibly a fascist government. They built these laws in light of what happened in World War II. So they created this framework to stop governments consolidating too much power. And that's why Article 8 exists. And that's why it protects you from being able to be tracked by the government willy-nilly whenever they think, whenever they want. They simply cannot do it. But if we got rid of the ECHR, any government could come into power, like Keir Starmer, with 33% of the vote, and pass any law that they want without restriction, without any restriction. This is why the ECHR is so important. It's ingrained into our laws, and it's tied into so many things, and it's done like that on purpose to make it hard to leave the ECHR, because it protects us. And of course, with any set of laws, does it benefit some bad people sometimes? Yes. But out of the 30,000 cases in the space of 10 years where people try to use the ECHR to not get deported after they perhaps did something wrong, only a few % of those cases manage to get approved and stay. We actually deport the vast majority, over 95% of people who try to stay in this country when the government is trying to get rid of them, get deported. It's only a small handful. And this is why people say if you leave the ECHR, you're essentially handing any government the power to bring in any law that they want whenever they want, without any restriction, without any safeguards. And that's what the ECHR currently does. It safeguards you.